Hello everyone, Oregon Moto John. Many of you know I love this Husky KTM 350 as well as my KTM 300. Let's go for a ride, and I'm going to talk about why I would still buy a KTM, and I'm not selling these KTMs. I'm going to keep standing behind my KTM. So let's go for a ride and talk about it some more. Today, just wanted to talk about this KTM issue. I mean, I was worried about it at first when I heard that they were basically, you could call it many different things, restructuring, probably the American equivalent of bankruptcy. But basically they're restructuring, they're going to, their CEO has stepped down, and you know, but in a sense, am I worried about not being able to get parts? What's going to happen to KTM? They're going to be around. They're one of the best innovators of dirt bikes and motorcycles in general. KTM kind of gets a bad rap sometimes, you know, talking about reliability, but I've had, many of you know, I've had a 350, I've had a 500, a 690 Enduro R, a 790, an 890 Adventure R, and then back to this 350, and I still have my 350 Husky, and then I also have my KTM 300. I didn't sell any of those bikes because I thought they were unreliable or because I had problems. When I sold everyone, they were in perfect condition, not using oil, running great. When I changed bikes, it was just to try something different that would maybe better fit my needs as a rider. Or I just wanted to try the latest and greatest. And in every one of those cases, I wasn't disappointed. I got a bike that I liked, I enjoyed, and I never bought a bike that, switching the map to there, that I just got on it and thought, this is a terrible bike. Every time I was so impressed with the bike. So I guess what I'm saying is, without KTM, I think that motorcycle innovation would be less. I think KTM pushes the limits. They typically have, you know, a lot of horsepower, a high horsepower to weight ratio, which makes them feel very lively. The 890, 690, 500, my 350, 300, they all feel very lively because they make them as lightweight as they can, give them great suspension, and then they give them plenty of horsepower. So, and I think that pushes the other brands to do better on those things as well. Now, I love Honda, I love Yamaha, I love all bikes. I mean, I could talk about all the bikes, and I love them all. But there is something, I keep coming back to KTM and Husky, even though I still have Hondas, because I love how they handle. They just have that razor's edge of performance that I just can't give up. It's an addiction, really. Honestly, I don't have any other destructive addictions per se. Any drug or alcohol addictions, but I am addicted to these motorcycles. Like today, it was a nice day, and I just had to get on this bike. I just had to. I have other bikes I could have ridden, but man, today this Husky this is what I wanted to ride, because it's like that sports car feel when you're on it. Change, you know, how they're doing things. Well, yes, maybe they'll condense down to just KTM or KTM and Husky. I don't know. Will gas, you know, and survive? I'm not sure. But definitely there'll be some changes, but I really hope that, you know, they do stick around. And I do believe they will, honestly, because they're just too big to fail. I mean, they're such innovators. They drive the industry forward, and with two-strokes, I mean, I don't know where two-strokes would be without KTM. I mean, they really brought them back, and I've had so much fun on my two-stroke 300. I can't even tell you how much fun that bike is to ride. So, and even this 350, I mean, if I want to get on it, my motor isn't quite warmed up yet, so I'm not gonna start rapping on it, but it's just a blast. And oh, something I need to say is, I think one of the reasons these bikes do get a bad rap, or can get a bad rap, is people who don't own them start to rip on them, okay? They are, you gotta maintain them. You have to maintain these bikes. And I think one of the main reasons I didn't have any trouble, I haven't had any troubles with mine, is I am very fastidious with maintenance on my bike. A little jump here. Oh yeah. But they're just, so like here I can hang the back end out, go around the corner, and just keep going. You have to maintain them. I mean, now most of them are making more horsepower than their counterparts, so for the same size bike, generally speaking, that is true. If you look across the different makes and models, I mean, I know there's exceptions, but that's generally true. And so if you're making a smaller motor, or the same displacement motor as somebody else, and you're making more horsepower, I mean, there could be more heat, there could be higher revs, there could be more aggressive cam profiles. I mean, there's just things going on to help that happen. So, you know, you gotta maintain those engines. And anybody who knows me knows I'm very fastidious about oil changes and air filters and all those things. And when I do those things, I just haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had any troubles. And it's not because I know I've had a lot of bikes, but I'd put 5,000 to 10,000 miles on those bikes. It's not like I'd buy one, put 300 miles on it and sell it. I would ride it. And the mountains in front of us here, they always went to the mountains. Those were not highway miles. Most of the miles that I put on those bikes were off-road. Today is unusual. I don't have time to go on, make it to the mountains, so I'm just gonna do some pavement and some gravel roads just to get that itch satisfied a little bit. Got some things I gotta do later today. But yeah, so all that's to say is I wouldn't be scared of KTM. I believe they're going to be around, and I believe they're going to keep innovating. There appears to be some really good deals out there right now. If I were looking for a KTM, I kind of wish I needed one. I would buy one, but I'm biked up. I got plenty of bikes. I don't need more bikes right now. Which, for a bike addict to say that's saying something. But anyway, that's most of what I wanted to say. It's just so much fun. This is really loose, and with the steering dampener on here, oh, right on. They're both he was on a KTM. See, some KTM guys giving each other some love as they go by each other. I think that was a 1290 Super Adventure, or 1190. I've kind of lost track of what those upper end bikes are, so I'm going smaller. But he was out having fun too. KTM got into trouble. I mean, it's easy to be critical of them, but you know, I own a very small business, and I've had times where business has been good, and business can even be good, but you can have shortages in different parts of the business that can suddenly make it hard for the business to perform the same. And sometimes you don't, whether it's staffing or if you're needing parts or whatever that is, and suddenly you need to make adjustments, and those adjustments for them to make a difference can take months to make that change. It can take months to make the change you need to make, and you may not understand that you need to make a change until you're months into the problem. So all that's to say is I can't even imagine running a large business where everything is on such large scale, there's such large expenses that I guess my point is, on a small scale, when something starts going bad, I think it's a little easier to catch and to fix it. But on such a large scale, I mean, with what they had going on, I can only imagine that by the time you realize there was a problem, it might have been hard to to unwind it. So anyway, I guess that's just some of my thoughts. I kind of understand how it could happen, given my experience. But you know, e-bikes, all the different lines they had, COVID, shortage of bikes, production, so you ramp it up, and then suddenly sales are down, and the e-bike thing maybe didn't work out like you thought it would, and then now you've got all this money out there and not the revenue. And I guess I can kind of understand how it could happen, but they've been around a long time, and I think they'll continue to be there. What I appreciate about KTM is, I mean, out of the box, you do get a bike that's very, very capable with the suspension and horsepower. Yes, like other bikes, you can add a fuel controller, do some minor things to the exhausted intake and give it more horsepower, especially if it's, you know, I'm talking about a dual sport. But I do like how, generally speaking, you know, the bikes that I've gotten, I haven't had to really dump a bunch of money into them to make them to be a lot of fun. And that's the way KTM likes to do it. That ready to race motto is a good one. Now, you know, are they without their problems? No, every manufacturer has their issues. I know the whole 890 thing was a bit of a debacle. I didn't have any trouble with mine, but I also didn't have, you know, 20,000 miles on it, and I know some of them didn't need that long to fail. Some of them were very short, but holy cow, this is January in Oregon. Usually our weather's terrible, but we got sun today, and I'm doing something with it. But anyway, am I going to get rid of my KTMs? No, I'm not. I'm happy to stand behind them. I'm going to keep them. I'm going to ride them. I'm going to enjoy them. And if there was a KTM that I wanted to add to the fleet, I would go out and buy it now, and I wouldn't be worried. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. I hope I'm not, but I sure could be. But I do love the way they innovate, and I think they'll continue to innovate. I don't want to go up to somebody's home here. Video is, I'm still going to support KTM. I'm going to stand behind KTM. I'm still going to ride KTMs, purchase KTMs. Will I be watching all of this? Oh, absolutely. I'm probably as guilty as any of us of watching these videos as they come out. When somebody talks about it, are they in trouble? Absolutely. You know, they have a lot of units. I heard somewhere in the neighborhood of, you know, as of January, February 2025, as many as 280,000 units, which is a lot. So, you know, that's those units that are unsold and, you know, in storage, even waiting to be shipped. And so, I mean, that's a lot of units. But I really feel like they're a brand that's going to continue to, you know, get back on its feet again after restructuring, and I have no plans to sell my bikes. Plus, right now, things being what they are, if you sell your bike, you probably wouldn't do very well anyway. But I have, even if prices were high to sell right now, there's no KTM. I don't have any KTM bikes that I want to sell. I like them too much. I love them. The performance, how they make me feel when I ride them, they're just definitely not the bike that I'd want to sell. Well, that's all I got to say. Hope you all are doing well, riding when you can, getting your bikes all maintained and getting ready to ride. Winter's a good time to do those things, or when the weather doesn't allow you to. So anyway, feel free to tune in. I got some other videos coming out. And hope you're all doing well. So here's something I'm going by, a couple people walking, I'm not going to rail by them. I just don't like motorcyclists getting bad names from going by someone ripping, pulling a wheelie. Just kind of go by them. I might get back on it once I'm by. These things are fun. Like riding a dirt bike on the highway on a gravel road. Love it. Pavement too. Get to turn off the pavement. Lots of fun. But they're also nice to just get up to a cruising speed, just relax. There's something about a KTM just makes you feel alive. Just the geometry of the bike chassis, the horsepower. I love it. And some of the other bikes I ride, I have some that can do that, but KTM seems to consistently do it. Oh, I even forgot I had a Super Duke 1290R I had for 8 years and about 5,000 miles on that bike. I did mainly off-road stuff, so I didn't get as many miles as I thought I would on it, but that bike didn't give me any trouble. The only time it did was when it was user error, like low battery. That bike, I think, did have a pretty good parasitic draw on the, when you weren't riding it on the battery, but put it on a tender and it wasn't an issue. Once again, kind of a maintenance thing. Gotta be careful up here. There's still ice. I think there's some ice on the side of the road right there. It's middle of the day, but it's just cold enough. There's some ice out here. I just love how this bike handles. There's a little rut across the road, and I can just stay on the throttle, and it's got enough horsepower to make the front end light. This is a really good climb, and this bike just surges up it. So much fun. R80 as a kid, I hardly changed oil on that thing, and it just would run. It ran and ran and ran, so I loved that bike. This is not that bike. Of course, it's many years later, a lot of different technology in this bike, and this machine needs to be maintained. I know I keep emphasizing that, but that's so important. And I know there's people out there who have maintained their bikes and have had problems, so I don't want to blame them. I'm just saying that if you have a KTM, you need to maintain it. And for some people, that's not for them. If they just want to get on a bike, ride it, and never really worry about the maintenance or take it in for the maintenance, you know, which is fine too. That's okay, but these bikes they have to be maintained, if that makes sense. And I love it. That sign says pavement ends, which says fun begins. I think it's a burn day. Yeah, this bike's fun. That's just something to tuck away. And I say that fully respecting other bikes, other competitors. I know I keep talking about Honda, but I definitely am a Honda fan. You guys, many of you who know me know that. I got a sweet spot for Hondas. But I also have a sweet spot for KTMs. Why is that? Well, I like how Honda does things with the reliability. They really emphasize that. And they still have decent performance. But I do like the KTM with its razor's edge of performance. You have to maintain them to, what's called, I wouldn't say perfection, but you do need to maintain them. And then you have that high horsepower, low weight, responsive chassis. Ooh, lost the front end for a second there. Really loose in here. It's just amazing. These bikes make me feel like I'm Superman. But I also have a Honda Sierra 450 dirt bike that is super awesome that I love. So, I mean, Honda makes some great products that will get your adrenaline going too. But I would say KTM consistently does it across their product line. And I've been getting parts for my KTMs, different things that need service, not failures, and I haven't had any trouble getting parts, so I mean, I feel like so far so good. This is loose. So loose, and there's a tendency that I feel like I want to muscle the front end, but that's always the wrong thing. If you muscle the front end, it's usually about when it breaks loose. Really, I'm just talking about running good fuel. I run non-ethanol, higher octane fuel, just like 9192. Keep clean fuel. Frequent oil changes, so even on some of my bikes that had less frequent oil changes, if I went on a bike ride and I flogged it, I was doing a lot of off-road. Like today, this is an easy ride. This is not what I'm talking about. This is not hard on oil. I'm not seeing temps above, engine temps above 150 degrees even, I don't think, which I've been monitoring. So this is not what I'm talking about, but let's say I went up on trails, it's a hot day, 200-degree temps on the engine, it's fans kicking on and off, feathering the clutch a lot, introducing clutch material into the engine. Yes, I'm gonna go home and I'm changing my oil. But like something like this, man, I'd probably let it go 5-10 hours. I'd go 10 hours, 8-10 hours if I was doing this kind of riding, but this is not typically what I ride, or how the conditions I'm riding in. Usually it is tighter trails and things, and then I might go 5 to 10 hours. Now that's for like this 350, 500, I'd probably do something somewhat similar. But as you get to the other bikes with a larger oil capacity, then it becomes a judgment on your part. But even with my 890, if I did a ride where I felt it was a little harder on the bike, I would change more oil. So anyway, that's up to you. But I think it does help the engine to be really aware of those things. And if that's not for you, that's okay. If you don't like the performance and all the maintenance, then, which isn't bad, I kind of get a routine. It's kind of fun. And if that's not for you, that's okay. The cool part is there's bikes for everybody out there. But I do get wanting to have a machine where you just get on it and ride it and maybe don't have to worry about oil changes and those kinds of things. But I don't mind doing that when I get the performance. And honestly, like this bike, let's say I were going to change oil, I would just get home, I don't have to remove my skid plate. I'm just, to change the oil, I always make sure I get a skid plate that I can get an oil dump done. I'll just pull the plug, let the oil puke out, put some oil back in it, change the filter maybe every other time or so, and it's super, super simple. And these are fun. And then like my 300, I was doing putting a capacitor on it the other day, starting capacitor. I put one on this morning actually, and noticed my air filter wasn't filthy, but it's it's getting close. So I just put a new air filter on it. No big deal. Took a little time, but not. KTM, I will say generally it's not. Their stuff is not hard to service. The air filters are easy to get to. Sometimes the oil changes take a little bit, but with the screens and filters and what have you. But air filters are easy, and the oil changes are not bad. So I've gotten to where I don't mind the maintenance at all. I've got it worked into a routine where it's not a big deal. Really, I'm just talking about running good fuel. I run non-ethanol, higher octane fuel, just like 9192. Keep clean fuel. Frequent oil changes, so even on some of my bikes that had less frequent oil changes, if I went on a bike ride and I flogged it, I was doing a lot of off-road. Like today, this is an easy ride. This is not what I'm talking about. This is not hard on oil. I'm not seeing temps above, engine temps above 150 degrees even, I don't think, which I've been monitoring. So this is not what I'm talking about, but let's say I went up on trails, it's a hot day, 200 degree temps in the engine, it's fans kicking on and off, feathering the clutch a lot, introducing clutch material into the engine. Yes, I'm gonna go home and I'm changing my oil. But like something like this, man, I'd probably let it go 5-10 hours. I'd go 10 hours, 8-10 hours if I was doing this kind of riding, but this is not typically what I ride, or how the conditions I'm riding in. Usually it is tighter trails and things, and then I might go 5 to 10 hours. Now that's for like this 350, 500, I'd probably do something somewhat similar. But as you get to the other bikes with a larger oil capacity, then it becomes a judgment on your part. But even with my 890, if I did a ride where I felt it was a little harder on the bike, I would change more oil. So anyway, that's up to you. But I think it does help the engine to be really aware of those things. And if that's not for you, that's okay. If you don't like the performance and all the maintenance, then, which isn't bad, I kind of get a routine. It's kind of fun. If that's not for you, that's okay. That's the cool part, is there's bikes for everybody out there. But I do get wanting to have a machine where you just get on it and ride it, and maybe don't have to worry about oil changes and those kinds of things. But I don't mind doing that when I get the performance. And honestly, like this bike, let's say I were going to change oil, I would just get home. I don't have to remove my skid plate. To change the oil, I always make sure I get a skid plate that I can get an oil dump done. I'll just pull the plug, let the oil puke out, put some oil back in it, change the filter maybe every other time or so, and it's super, super simple. And these are fun. And then like by 300, I was doing putting a capacitor on it the other day, starting capacitor. I put one on this morning actually, and noticed my air filter wasn't filthy, but it's, you know, it's getting close. So I just put a new air filter on it. No big deal. Took a little time, but not. KTM, I will say generally it's not, their stuff is not hard to service. The air filters are easy to get to. Sometimes the oil changes take a little bit, but with the screens and filters and what have you, but air filters are easy and the oil changes are not bad. So I've gotten to where I don't mind the maintenance at all. I've got it worked into a routine where it's not a big deal. The last point I want to make is, I know these bikes are fun because when I get on them, I don't want to stop. I just want to keep riding. Like right now, I got to get back for some things that I need to do. And if I could point this bike back to the mountains, I'm riding away from the mountains right now. If I could point it to the mountains and ride that way and go up there and ride around, I would do it, especially on a nice day like this. But I mean, that's the kind of excitement that KTM produces for me. And again, there's other manufacturers that do a similar thing, but I don't know. KTM, if you haven't ridden them, there is something special there. They know how to build a chassis. They know how to put excitement on two wheels. Anyway, that's all I've got. I've rambled on way longer than I should have, and way longer than anybody would ever want to listen to. So I apologize, but I've been wanting to make this video for a while. Wasn't quite sure of how to put it together, but finally just thought, you know, I'm going to throw a GoPro on my helmet and go out for a ride on my Husky, and we're going to do a video. So thanks for let me talk about it. I hope that helps. I hope that I'm on the right track with this stuff. We'll see. I have no idea, but well, you know, hopefully that's how it works out. All right, everybody, have a great day, and hope you're doing well. Hope you're healthy. Hope you're getting some rides in. If you're not getting some rides in, get your bike maintenance done. It's a good time to get familiar with your bike and get some of that maintenance done, so when the weather is good, you're ready to ride.